and welcome to FPL Malvo. My name's Andy and it's my Game Week 6 team selection video for you today. I'll take you through how I did in Game Week 5 and I'm actually going to have a look at my transfer plans for about the next 4 weeks because I've got a bit of a plan in mind. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So let's start, as always, by taking a look at how I did in the previous game week. And spoiler alert, it is not great. 41 points, it's a red arrow, gone down to about 500,000. To be honest, it easily could have been worse. And I've seen videos from other content creators. I think it's just a week where the template failed. And, you know, good players will get bad scores. Occasionally, you know, Maddison and Buemo in midfield, for example, have been great for me this season, and yeah, nothing from them. But I'll take you through the team. Turner, I started in front of Flecken. He actually got a point more, so happy days there. Chilwell's benching was a surprise to me. I don't think him on the left wing has worked. I've been singing his praises, saying, you know, he's playing as a winger, he's a defender, so he's, you know, can get those clean sheet points, but it's also slow attacking. All of that is true, but it only really counts for something if Chelsea can manage to score a goal, and that is looking difficult at the moment for them. I thought if Chilwell was going to lose that place, then he'd play left back instead, but just a benching. Don't know if that's going to be a concern going forward, but yeah, certainly not singing his praises anymore. Came on, got booked, no points. Trippier, delighted with him, 8 points. He is a bonus point magnet because he's so involved. He puts so many crosses in, that sort of thing. So particularly in low-scoring games, he picks up a lot of bonus points. So 8 from him. Henry, it looks like is out for the season. So really disappointing for him, obviously. But I'm a little disappointed as well as a Henry owner. Yeah, 1 point from him. It would have been 1 point either way, unless he, you know, influenced the game the rest of the match. But yeah, he's going to have to be a sale for me, unfortunately. Then onto the midfield, Saka keeps pitching in, and then nothing from anyone else. Sterling has done nothing since I brought him in, but I'm not as desperate to sell him as a lot of people seem to be. He's the bright spark in a very poor Chelsea team going forward so far this season, and yeah, I think if the goals start coming, they look as likely to come from him as anywhere. This week he hit the bar from a free kick, and last week he set up Jackson for a sitter, which he missed. He gets a goal and assist in those 2 games. It's a completely different story. But yeah, disappointing midfield. But like I say, it doesn't mean necessarily they're bad picks. It's just they didn't come through for me this week. And then up front is where my points came from, really. I think a lot of people captained Son this week, or at least there's been more Son captainers than, you know, anyone else really challenging Haaland for captaincy. So it would have been great if he'd hauled. I think it probably would have made a red arrow, you know, potentially even a green arrow. And he had so many chances, and it was just one of those days for him. And yeah, he still scored and got me 6 points. Not going to complain too much. 12 with the captaincy. And Ollie Watkins keeps pitching in. I am concerned about him in front of goal, but we'll get onto that with my transfer plans. But he got an assist for winning a penalty, so yeah, 5 points from him. 41 points, poor, but I've seen a lot of worse scores. And if you're going to have a poor week, have it in a low-scoring week. It leaves me 2 transfers going forward, and I think in a reasonable place. So let's take a little look at how I'm shaping up for Game Week 6. I'm not going to do a watch list for you today. I'm actually going to talk you through my transfer plans because I've got a fairly decent idea of where I want to be in a few weeks. So to start off with, I've already made 2 transfers. I made them early because I think both will rise in price this week. In fact, Alvarez already has since I bought him. I brought in Alvarez for Ollie Watkins, and I brought in Botman for Henry. Now, these are the 2 most popular transfers in this week, Botman and Alvarez. So I'm not exactly going against the grain here, but Alvarez, I think, is a bit of a short-term pick for me. He's playing every minute at the moment, and I think the big thing with him is that like every attacking midfielder in Pep's team, he's a rotation risk. But I think we've got injuries to Grealish, Kovacic is out, Bernardo Silva went off injured in the Champions League. So the options are kind of thin on the ground, and Pep's already suggested that the Newcastle League Cup match is going to be the one where it'll be heavily rotated. I still think there's a chance that he misses one game in the next sort of 5 maybe, but he's playing so well and he's in the best attack in the league. He's on set pieces, like he's on a lot of corners and free kicks. Foden's really the only one who's taking those off him. So I think he's just a fantastic pick. The fixtures turn in a couple of weeks and City aren't fixture proof. Like they're as close as 2, but they're not fixture proof. So I think he might be a short-term pick for me, but at the moment, I think he's fairly nailed and he's just an outrageous bargain at that price. And I keep putting it off because I keep thinking that I've missed the boat on him, but I just don't think there's a better option cheaper. So if he gets a couple of holes in the next couple of weeks for me, then happy days. And if I get to the point where it's getting rotated or City have got a lot of players back, then I'll look at moving him on. But most importantly, it takes a lot of money out of my team, which helps me going forward. The other one, I wanted the Newcastle double up in defence, and I've gone for Botman because it's the cheapest option. So that was a straight swap, really, for Rico Henry, who it sounds like is out for the rest of the season. Now, I had it in my head that I wanted to wildcard around game week 9. I think there's a bit of a fixture swing, particularly for Newcastle, but I also like Villa's Villa assets. Their fixtures look good. I think I can get my team to a place where I don't need to wildcard in game week 9, and I can just bring in the assets that I want from those couple of teams and take out the problem assets that I have going forward. And I think that if I can manage to save that wildcard, which for me, most important chip in the game, then yeah, it means I can use it way later on. Like it would be fantastic to use it around like the City Brentford blank, for example. I've got a few members from each team there. So yeah, there's that. So I'm going to talk you through where I'm kind of looking over the next few weeks. Also, I'll point out, you'll notice that the screen looks a little bit different. It's because I've used FPL Teams, which is a free website for kind of planning your team going forward. I don't use like Fantasy Football Hub or any of those. I don't take like predicted points into consideration. Like whenever I've heard people talking about them, quite often you end up disagreeing with the kind of predicted points and stuff anyway. So, and it takes a little bit of the fun out for me. But I do like using FPL Teams, fantastic website. It means that you can look at who you're picking each game week going forward. It gives you a really good idea about whether somebody's good to bring in or not, because you may look at it and think he's a good option. And then when you're picking your team for the next 4 weeks, you might bench him every single week. So yeah, FPL Teams, shout out for them. They are fantastic. So after using 2 transfers in game week 6, I would probably roll a transfer in game week 7. My team would look like this. I brought in Chilwell. I brought Flecken back in goal, and I brought Chilwell in as well. There's loads of options in defence. If it's a good week, I could play Bayer, who's got the blank. And I would also happily start Chilwell against Fulham if I thought he was going to play. The Stupinan has the hardest fixture, I'd say, on paper out of any of them. But he's so attacking, and you know, Villa's defence hasn't looked fantastic. They just look great going forward. So yeah, and not completely sold on that's the way I would line up the team. I think one more week could influence that for me. For example, if Chilwell isn't playing, then he would definitely be on the bench for me. And in terms of rolling a transfer, I probably would, just because the transfers that I've got planned, I don't think are necessarily better fixtures. So you may be wondering, I mentioned that I thought that Villa had a good fixture run, and obviously I've just taken out Ollie Watkins. Well, one of the reasons for that was obviously to free up funds, but the other one was because I think Diaby is the best option in that team. And I could easily bring him in this week. Sterling's probably the one closest to the chopping block, but yeah, Sterling away to Fulham. Again, I don't mind it as a fixture. Look, game week 6 will influence whether I make that call or not. But yeah, I've kind of got it in my head that I think rolling a transfer is probably the best option. And yeah, like the way that the team looks, obviously having Maddison playing Liverpool is difficult, but it's one of the only difficult fixtures I'd say throughout my entire team. So happy days. So then game week 8, I think this is pretty locked as a transfer, providing that injuries and things don't kind of change that. But Chilwell will be gone and Udogie will be coming in. I keep saying I need to free up funds. I do, because my ultimate aim is to bring in Mohamed Salah. So anywhere where I can make a downgrade would be great. I wouldn't consider doing this transfer, I think, the week before. I say that. I mean, there is a possibility I could, because I could bring Udogie in and just bench him for the previous game week if I thought, Chilwell's price was really going to drop. If he gets another benching, then yeah, I suppose it's a possibility. But the fact is, Tottenham have got 2 tough fixtures in a row, and bringing Udogie in for Luton away, it seems like a really good game week to get him into my team. And he'd be straight into my team as well. Bayer and Stupinan sitting on the bench, both got fairly tough fixtures. And then Man City and Arsenal assets playing each other is not ideal, but I don't want to take out any of those guys. Plus, to be honest, it's defenders, I'd say, from those teams that would be a bigger concern for me. I think both teams will probably score in it. And then I've still got the Newcastle double up. I'm not sure I'm expecting a clean sheet away to West Ham, but yeah, I prefer it to the 2 players that I've got sat on the bench. And also, I think is one of the toughest fixtures that Newcastle have got for a few. Again, like the previous week, I've got the option bringing Diaby in. And like I say, Sterling is the most likely that is one who's going to make way. That will completely depend on how Sterling does in the next couple of game weeks. And final game week for my kind of transfer plans, game week 9, I've got 2 free transfers going into it. I wouldn't have if I'd already brought Diaby into my team, but it would mean I've got 1 free transfer and 1 transfer less to make. So it doesn't really make a difference. So Sterling to Salah, Rashford to Diaby. Could easily be Saka instead of Rashford, or instead of Sterling if he does really well. The most likely, I think, is Rashford and Sterling leaving my team. I really like those 2, Salah and Diaby, coming into my team. Salah, I've not had Salah all season, and the argument for me for not having him is because I wouldn't captain him. And I think we're getting to the point where Liverpool's fixtures are just considerably better than Man City's for the next few weeks after this. And I think there's easy arguments for captaining Salah some of those game weeks. And to be honest, this game week is one of them. Everton at home compared to Haaland playing against Brighton. I don't know for sure that I would captain Salah, but it's a toss-up really, I think, between the 2. Looking through my team, Udogie gets another start, Fulham at home. I'd probably go the same defence with Stupinan having Man City away. They've got a tough run of fixtures, Brighton, but he's such a good option. I'm really happy to keep benching him for a few weeks until the games get easier. And then through my midfield, again, it looks really good. You've got 4 of them with home fixtures, and I don't think Saka will be that worried about Chelsea away. And yeah, Brighton's a really tough fixture for City. They've struggled against them in the past, and that is why I would consider the Salah captaincy. Now, the one I haven't mentioned is Trippier to Shah. And in fairness, this could be almost anything, I think. simply, I haven't got the money to just do Sterling and Rashford to Salah and Diaby at this point. And I can't find a way to do 4 transfers and not take a hit over those game weeks. So I have buyer's remorse over Trippier. I think that the most obvious way to take money out of my team is to just go down to Shah. He's not as good an option as Trippier, but he's £1.5 million cheaper. There are other options for me as well. I could make another midfield move and Saka could go. He keeps chipping in, but he's quite a high price and he's not setting the world alight. The goals are really spread around in that Arsenal team. Another option, I mentioned that that Man City's fixtures were getting tougher. And I've got double up in attack. And I also said that I thought Alvarez was short term. Now, realistically, if all of those players who I mentioned were injured, are now fit again at this point, I could consider getting rid of Alvarez. I honestly don't know who for, but I think there may well be a cheaper option that kind of emerges. But I think Trippier down to Shah looks like a good move. I think if Trippier can get a couple of assists over the next week, next few game weeks, it will make me really have to weigh up whether I think paying the extra for him is worth it and where else I can free up those funds. But yeah, there's choices, and I kind of like that about my team. And like I say, making these transfers this way, it saves me using a wild card. Because honestly, this is pretty close, I think, to the kind of wildcard team that I would want around game week 9. Yeah, there's changes I would make. So, for example, Turner would go to Areola. I've got Ujo on the bench. He would go to a playing striker like Archer. And then there's a couple others that are kind of toss-ups, like I keep benching Stupinan. Maybe I consider somebody else. Maybe there's a £4 million defender that could come in for Bayer, but I think out of the key picks, I really like my team at this point. So that's my kind of transfer plan over the next few weeks. I like it because of its flexibility as well. There's players that I can bring in at different times. I don't think I'm going to be too swayed by if somebody does really well. So, for example, if Chilwell does really well over the next couple of weeks, still probably going to take him out because I think that Chelsea's good fixture run is coming towards an end. Like I say, in the midfield, two of them need to go really out of Sterling, Rashford and Saka, so I can adjust that depending on who's playing well. I can also bring in Diaby earlier if I wanted to. The only thing I think is going to potentially scupper this is injuries. And like I say, there's some flexibility that I could work around it, but there's some players that are long kind of keeps for me. And if they were to pick up an injury, that would really, throw my plans. But at the end of the day, if I'm really struggling to get to this because of injuries, then I would just look at wildcarding around game week 9, and I will be able to fix those other kind of bench issues that I have in my squad going forward. So yeah, that's it. That's my kind of transfer plans over the next sort of 4 game weeks. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching my Game Week 6 team selection. Also a little bonus transfer plans going forward as well. If you enjoyed it, found it useful, then please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it when you guys do that. And I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another video.